Welcome to the Bible's Greatest Mysteries from Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, and we are week 3 with Dr. Michael Heiser. This one's about the mountain of the gods.
Oh. This is really significant because this is what the war is all about.
I know.
The Mount of the Congregation or the Mount of the Assembly.
When I was... rabbit trail, bunny trail. We follow those so often. When I was doing research for the Red Wing Saga, early on, I think it was book 2 or 3, that I needed to find more information about the Commissioner of Police during the Jack the Ripper murders in London. So I had to find information on Sir Charles Warren. As I was reading his biography, I saw that he had visited not just Jerusalem, which I knew about, but he'd also been to Mount Hermon. And while he was there, he found a stone that has Proto-Greek writing on it that seems to be an echo of what's in the Book of Enoch.
Scholars have agreed that it is certainly a reference to that event. The translation that's been accepted for about the last 100 years or so says, "By the order of the Most High and Holy God, those who swore an oath proceed from here," which is a reference to the angels who made a mutual pact to sin by taking human wives and corrupting the human genome, creating a hybrid race of children to take dominion of the earth away from us, humanity.
Yes.
But our friend Dr. Doug Hamp, in his most recent book, Corrupting the Image, Part 2, managed to draw more information out of that stela by finding characters that seem to have been overlooked by previous translators who couldn't seem to make sense of them. And I think Doug is right.
Yes, and before you reveal that, I just want to make this comment that currently that stone is in the basement, hidden away at the British Museum.
Yes.
It's never been displayed that I know of. May have been very early on.
It was.
But it was very quickly taken off and just hidden away.
Right.
And I think it's because the scholars don't want us to know what's really on there. Or at least the fallen realm don't want us to know what's on there.
Yes, I would agree with you there. As I have learned after talking with another friend of ours, Ryan Pitterson, about his book, The Final Nephilim.
We need to get him for interviews on this.
We do.
We do.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
He pointed out that Bible commentators and scholars from the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries, they understood the Genesis 6 worldview and that the importance of Mount Hermon. And this is, again, before Sir Charles Warren found that stela in 1869. But what Ryan has done, contrary to what we've done, which is dug into a lot of modern archaeology, things that have only become available now within the last 40 or 50 years, Ryan has found in these commentaries from Bible scholars from the 18th, 19th centuries, the same conclusions that we're reaching. But it seems that somewhere around the turn of the 20th century, things shifted. Now, that stone was on display, and Doug Hamp has it in his book, a picture with a translation at the British Museum from about 1909 or so.
That's the same photograph that I have.
Okay.
You can find the photograph at the museum website.
Right. But as you say, it is no longer on display. And I think it's because behind the scenes, on the other side of the veil, the unseen realm would just as soon we look at the world through scientific eyes and assume...
You don't want to think about that.
Those gods of the ancient world, they were just made up. They were the imaginary friends of the Canaanites. They didn't really... But that's not so.
But Sir Charles Warren also found a temple on top of Mount Hermon.
Yes.
And he also found a very old wall that takes you in an anti-clockwise path around a depression, a scooped out portion of the very top of the mountain.
The very summit.
And you can't go up there now. The UN owns it.
That's right. The United Nations has an observation post up there, which I guess is understandable. It's the border between Syria and Israel and Lebanon. So, but it does make you wonder.
It really does.
But yes, he speculated in his report for the Palestine Exploration Quarterly that perhaps this was the origin of the tawaf, which is the Muslim practice of circling the Kaaba in Mecca in a counterclockwise fashion or anti-clockwise. So he, in 1869, saw possibly a connection between the Watchers and their rebellion on Mount Hermon. This is the incident very briefly described in Genesis 6, verses 1 through 4, but more deeply in the Book of Enoch, which is why we're offering it this week, and the practices of Islam.
I know. Well, this idea
Not politically correct to say, but...
This idea of mountains.
Yes.
This idea of mountains with pantheons on them. I would just want to say really quickly, Derek and I, no one here at Skywatch TV believes that we actually have a pantheon that includes God at the head of it. That's not how it goes. There is a fallen realm pantheon. However, in heaven, if you want to put it that way, there are beings who live there that don't always get sent here with messages. Therefore, you can't call them angels because that means messenger.
Right, right.
The actual proper term is Elohim. And Dr. Michael Heiser gets into that and many, many more. So here is part 3 with Dr. Michael Heiser.
Mike, for people not familiar with Mount Hermon, what is it and why is it important to understanding Christian theology?
Yeah, Mount Hermon is the place where in Enochian literature and other Second Temple Jewish literature that the Watchers, the biblical term for them would be the sons of God of Genesis 6, descend from heaven and, launch into their transgression of the boundaries between heaven and earth and decide to corrupt humanity. So it was one of those places that became kind of ground zero for supernatural evil. I mean, its own location is in the region in the Old Testament that used to be known as Bashan, which in Canaanite was known as Bathan, which means serpent. This region had a couple gateways to the netherworld, according to Canaanite Ugaritic texts. This is not where you want to go on vacation. I mean, it just had a supernaturally sinister reputation. And the reason why it's important, in the Old Testament, we have like Psalm 68, where the psalmist is speaking to Mount Bashan, the mountain of God, or the mountain of wannabe. And he says, why are you so jealous of the mountain that God has chosen for his own, which is Sinai? So there's this rivalry between Hermon and Sinai. And if you keep reading in Psalm 68, this is the mountain where the psalmist said that God is going to conquer this place and, bring the captives in his train and bring them back, from the sea, which is a chaos lingo. And it's the passage Paul quotes in Ephesians 4, the old captivity captive, passage, that part of what Christ accomplishes is to defeat, again, cosmic evil forces. And, if he's quoting Psalm 68, he has Bashan in view. And so he's nullified their authority. He's taken them captive. He is Lord over them. He is going to, God is going to be the Lord of this place, this place of darkness. It's a conquest, statement in Ephesians 4 that is very, easily linkable to what we think of in a bigger picture as spiritual warfare. I mean, Jesus goes to this region. We have the gates of hell passage in Bashan. And then 6 days later, they go up into a very high mountain. Well, there's only one there. That would be Mount Hermon. And what happens there? It's the transfiguration. So why does Jesus pick this region and this place, this mountain, to do this stuff? In my view, as I'm known for in Unseen Realm, is he's going there to pick a fight. He's going there to provoke. He goes to Caesarea Philippi, again, right there at the foot of Hermon. And this is where, we get thou art, you're Peter, and you're, I'm going to build my church on this rock, and the gates of hell will not be able to withstand it. This is where he does it, right in view of this place. And it's a threat. It's a smackdown. I mean, Jesus goes there, and he is really trying to provoke the enemy, because he knows the clock is ticking. I mean, we're not that far removed when he does this from his own, crucifixion. So it's a spiritual warfare place, both in terms of darkness and also in terms of Jesus challenging it and defeating it, because he defeats the Lord of the underworld. Okay, I'm going to build my church. Essentially, I'm going to turn, the gates of hell, okay, into, Satan's tomb, in effect. And he goes to Hermon to be transfigured, and he reveals who he is, as if to say, well, here I am, like, do something about it, So he does these provocative things, and as soon as he's done with them, the Gospels say, from this time forth, Jesus began to teach his disciples that he needed to go to Jerusalem and die. And they get freaked out, but like, that's the plan. So he needs to get the ball rolling here. It is time to enact, God's plan. So he goes and picks a fight. They go to Jerusalem. They have the triumphal entry, and a week later, he's dead. And there we go.
As Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 2, verses 6 through 8, that if the archons or the rulers of the age had understood what was going on, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. Now, as we said in the previous segment, when Jesus in the Spirit descended into the abyss and proclaimed to the spirits in prison, is it possible that they thought, because they realized, okay, he is the Son of God and he's fully human now, he's vulnerable.
He's vulnerable.
Maybe did they think that they could get away with actually, as in the parable?
I do. I do think Satan and other forces, they thought this was the solution to the dilemma. I don't have this in unseen realm, but I think Jesus' temptation scene is really important for this, because when he's propelled by the Holy Spirit to go out into the wilderness, which of course is the domain of chaos in the Old Testament, and he has this conversation with Satan. We're familiar with, Satan tries, 3 tests or 3 temptations, and Jesus responds with Deuteronomy, and we get all that. But what we kind of miss is one of those tests, Satan whips out Psalm 91. And Psalm 91, again, this is something we wouldn't ordinarily know, but that psalm was viewed as an exorcistic psalm by Jews of Jesus' day in that intertestamental period. We know that because at Qumran, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, Psalm 91 was in the same jar with 4 other exorcistic psalms that are not in the Bible. And in the Septuagint, different versions of the text, it's a Psalm of David. And this is where we get this notion that in the intertestamental period that David and Solomon could cast out demons. This is why, because Psalm 91, if you're reading it in Hebrew, there are 4 or 5 terms there that are names of Canaanite deities. In other words, they're these demonic forces.
Right. And
so one of the verses of this psalm, Satan using an exorcistic psalm to test Jesus. I mean, think about that. It says, well, Satan says, okay, you're the Son of God, right? Yeah, I get it. Doesn't the scripture say, that, God will protect you? So why don't you just throw yourself off here, the pinnacle, of the temple or this mountain? And, if you're the Son of God, you should be okay. Now, why is he doing it? Well, let's say that Jesus says, yeah, I am the Son of God, so watch. He hurls himself. If the psalm is accurate, lest the angels will bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone. What has Satan learned? Well, guess we can't kill him.
Yeah. Oh.
So I think he's fishing for information.
Never considered that. Very interesting.
And Jesus cannot put this card on the table, because that's exactly what has to happen. He must die. So if he succumbs to this trick, this fishing expedition on Satan's part, Satan has just learned a valuable thing. In fact, he's learned the thing that would be the most damaging to the whole program working. And basically, Jesus tells him to take a walk, on a short pier. Like, thou shalt not put the Lord your God to the test. He just cuts the conversation right there. Like, you're not gaining any information here. Sorry. I'm not falling for this.
Fascinating. Now, the importance of Mount Hermon in the Enochic literature as the site of the Watchers' rebellion, we're familiar with that from the Jewish perspective. What did the pagans around ancient Israel, absent Bashan, we know that the lowlands at the foot of Mount Hermon were considered an evil place. But what was the significance of Hermon to the Canaanites and the Amorites?
Yeah, I mean, this was this was considered the mountain of the gods, the home base of the council of the gods in back at Sumerian and Mesopotamian religion. So this was the seat of their authority, the seat of the gods. So it's no surprise that it would continue to be perceived as, again, kind of the vortex, if you will, of chaos forces. I mean, this is their headquarters. That it's something that never really goes away. I mean, even later when you get into Roman times, you've got, of course, the seat of Pan there, the cave of Pan. You've got altars to Zeus at different times. And Zeus, of course, claims to be most high. In Greco-Roman authority. So you've got this attachment to this place, not only the region, but specifically the mountain of Hermon, in a number of ancient pagan religions that really, again, considers it their chief base of operations.
It's fascinating that in 1869, Sir Charles Warren discovered a stela in a temple on the summit that was written in Greek, dedicated to those who swore an oath. A reference to the watchers of
Sounds familiar.
It does.
Yeah, it shows that well into the Hellenistic period, people are aware of what the place is. They're aware of the stories and the traditions and how this ties in with biblical stuff. But I'm hoping that people listen to this. One of the things they really take away is the fact that we don't know this stuff. Again, to somebody in the ancient world, if you just said, "Hey, let's go up to Bashan for some R&R," this weekend, they're going to look at you like you're insane. No, it's a spooky place. It's foreboding. It's evil. Again, they're going to be used to these ideas, and then when things happen there, especially when it's Jesus or some other spiritual figure, this is going to spell spiritual warfare to them. But these things are basically meaningless to us unless we take the time to get into their world, and have that fixed in our minds when we read Scripture.
Who would have thought that was such an important location? But as we talked last week about Mike and his teaching at the Jordan River on baptism, we had the opportunity with Mike to teach right there at the Grotto of Pan.
Right there at the Grotto of Pan, and right there in 2018 on the side of the mountain. Yes,
yes. So if you're interested in seeing some of those teachings, and we cover it just briefly in our what we call travelogumentary, our friend Aaron Judkins coined the term, so credit where it's due. You can access it for 7 days, just a rental. You can also purchase unlimited access if you choose, but it's available in full HD, instant access for just $2.95. Skywatchfilms.com, or just point your phone or tablet at the QR code on your screen. It'll take you right to that site. And we take you on a tour of the Holy Land that is unlike any other. I mean, visiting Mount Hermon, visiting Shiloh, visiting Bethel. These are many places that Tours of Israel will not visit because they're considered dangerous. They're in what the world calls the West Bank, what the Israelis call Samaria and Judea, where 80% of the Bible's history took place.
In 2019, you and I got to go to Joshua's altar as well. And if you are interested in going to Israel with us, go to skywatchandisrael.com and find out about the 2023 tour, or scan this QR code on your screen. We have a great offer, by the way. We still have copies of the books, copies of the DVD for the Mike Heiser Bible's Greatest Mysteries offer.
Yes.
And it includes what?
Both of Mike's...
Tell him, Vanna.
Both volumes of Mike's companion to the Book of Enoch. This is essentially a guide that helps make sense of the Book of Enoch, which is also part of the package, the R.H. Charles translation from the 19th century. Why, even though it's not in the Bible, the Book of Enoch is important for us to understand as Christians. It was clearly important enough for Jude, for example, to quote directly from the Book of Enoch.
Yes.
Peter certainly made reference to it in 1 Peter and in 2 Peter. So, and there are other aspects of Enochian thought that are woven throughout New Testament theology. Now, if you want a video introduction to the Book of Enoch, Dr. Mike Heiser was interviewed by Stephen Bankars, who was a co-author with Josh Peck of the book, The Second Coming of the New Age. And Mike explains why Enoch is relevant to us as Christians, even though it's not in the Bible. Mm-hmm. But again, if the apostles, including Jesus' half-brother Jude, thought enough of the Book of Enoch to cite it directly, to quote it directly, we as Christians ought to pay attention to it, at least insofar as it helps us to understand some of the stranger parts of the Bible, like Genesis chapter 6. So all of that available through our special offer this week. And you can
we actually have a special offer video.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll tell you how to get it, and we'll come back and tell you about our tour of Turkey, which is, we've got dates for that tour, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the sites that we'll see, the churches of Revelation, when the Bible's greatest mysteries continues.
Call now and get the companion to the Book of Enoch special collection, featuring the original Book of Enoch in beautifully bound hardback edition, and both of Dr. Michael Heiser's groundbreaking companion guides to the Book of Enoch, along with the shocking expose, Fallen Angels and Ancient Aliens on DVD. This is an exclusive offer for our Skywatch television audience. Yours for a donation of $35 plus shipping and handling. Volumes 1 and 2 of the companion guides to Enoch unveil what most of the modern church has never heard regarding how the sin of the watchers in Enoch 6 through 16 helped frame the mission of Jesus, how the descriptions of the Antichrist, the Messiah, the end times day of the Lord, and the final judgment connect to Genesis 6 and the Nephilim. This and so much more. Plus, you will also receive on DVD the Book of Enoch, Fallen Angels and Ancient Aliens, an exclusive production with Dr. Michael Heiser regarding the blatant lies of ancient astronaut theory and the horrifying nature of fallen angels and alien abduction. This DVD is a must-have. But that's not all. You'll also receive the beautifully printed hardback edition of the original historical Book of Enoch from Defender Publishing, perfect for assisting serious researchers and students in the study of the Bible and the early age. Sold separately, these items hold a retail value of $90. Yours now for your donation of only $35 plus shipping and handling while supplies last. Whether you've read the Book of Enoch or want to journey through it for the first time, without a doubt, you'll find the companion to the Book of Enoch special collection absolutely essential. Order now at skywatchtvstore.com or call 1-844-750-4985.
The Bible's Greatest Mysteries is part of Skywatch TV. Every show is available on demand at the Skywatch TV app for Roku, Apple TV, and our free mobile app. Follow us online at skywatchtv.com.
Oh, we produce so much content, I forget which program we're on. This is the Bible's Greatest Mysteries. Welcome back.
Welcome back. Well, I want that package. And seriously, we don't have a whole lot of those packages left. So if you're interested in that, please contact the Skywatch TV store right away. You can scan the QR code on your screen. We are going to go to Turkey in October of this year, 2022.
Yes. The Churches of Revelation. This is one of the things that is really exciting. If you've not seen our program, we also produce and host a weekly program called Unraveling Revelation. You can find it on the PTL network or unravelingrevelation.tv for all of the archives. And as we went through the letters to the Churches of Revelation in the early part of our study, we learned a lot about those cities that we didn't know and realized suddenly that there were references in those letters that only make sense if you know what those cities were about.
Oh, I know. One of the places that we're going to visit while we are there, I want to say it's Ephesus, but I could be wrong about this, trying to remember my own. No, it's Pergamon. It's Pergamon. We're going to go not only to the city where Satan's seat was.
Yes.
But also we're going to visit the Asclepion, which was a place supposedly of healing where the people who lived there would go inside and they would tell their stories to the priests. Priests would take them in and snakes would crawl on them.
Yeah, and then they would have strange dreams, and then the priests would have to interpret the dreams.
Yeah, I imagine that there was some sort of a drink or smoke or something you did that helped you to have those dreams when you went in.
Very, very strange, but that was the belief that it was called the Asclepion for Asclepius, who was the demigod, by definition a Nephilim, one of the Nephilim.
So did they have to pay for this, or was this on, sort of a national health care
I
system?
suspect that they had to pay. There was probably a love offering taken or something. But you got to pay for the upkeep of the serpents.
Oh, yeah.
Asclepius was the demigod son of Apollo, it was believed. And so his place of healing was called the Asclepion. And the one at Pergamum was one of the most important in all of the Mediterranean world.
Yes, it was. When I think of the churches of Revelation, I tend to think of the letters in the book of Revelation and think of them as in a Christian context.
Right.
But they were soaking in paganism, just like last week I told you I'm an old lady. Well, they're soaking in it.
Yeah.
We are soaking in it. And we get to go to those cities and we can put ourselves in the places of the people who lived in the first century.
Yeah. And besides, at Ephesus, from Ephesus, we'll also go to a place called Pamukkale, which is the site of
It's the gate to hell.
Yeah, it's the gate to hell. It was called the Plutonion in the ancient world because carbon dioxide gas happens to seep from the earth at the mouth of this cave, and because it's heavier than air, it would be close to the ground. So the poor animals that were brought in as sacrifices would be overcome and keel over. And so
but the priest would hold his breath while he was in there because they knew pretty much. They didn't know what it was called, but
toxic gas, and that was killing the sacrificial animals.
Well, they believed that it was some sort of toxic gas that was sent by Pluto.
Yeah, yeah.
The Lord of Hell. Hades.
So join us in Turkey this fall, and you can tell your friends that you actually went to the gates of hell, and they did not prevail against you.
They did not, and they will not, because Jesus has won that victory. If you want to go to Turkey, send us a note at bgm@skywatchtv.com. Do it soon, though, because that tour is filling up.
Yeah, it's going to be a small group that we're wanting to keep this to a small, rather intimate gathering, but we will be teaching and preaching along the way. And while we laugh, we certainly don't take this lightly. This is a very serious supernatural war in which we are all deployed. And the reason we spend the time doing the research and the writing that we do is because we want to untangle and understand, the best of our ability, the Bible's greatest mysteries.